Hello and welcome to the SAP HANA Academy. My name is Dennis van Kempen, and in this video tutorial series we will discuss SAP HANA administration. In this video we will focus on SAP HANA Studio and we'll give an overview. HANA Studio runs on the Eclipse platform and is both a development environment and an administration tool for SAP HANA. In case you're not familiar with Eclipse, take a look at the eclipse.org website. Here you can read all about this open source integrated development environment, or short IDE, and about the Eclipse marketplace, where a ton of companies have posted their plugins to extend the functionality of Eclipse. Originally a Java IDE, Eclipse is used today for C and C++ development, PHP, Python, and many other purposes. SAP is an Eclipse strategic development member and has provided a number of plugins for this open source platform. Let's take a brief look. Navigate to URL tools.hana.ondemand.com to download SAP development tools for Eclipse. As you can see, there are ABAP development tools for SAP NetWeaver, there are modeling tools for SAP BW, there are tools for the SAP HANA Cloud Platform, HCP, and for HANA Cloud Integration, HCI, for mobile, identity management, and for the user interface, SAP UE5. To install SAP HANA Studio, you can download Eclipse from the Eclipse website and add the plugin from tools.hana.ondemand.com. Or you can download a bundled installation from the SAP Software Download Center. This bundle includes already the Java runtime. The Software Download Center, or SWDC, requires an account as user for customer or partner, and this is covered in a tutorial video on this topic. Administrators use the SAP HANA Studio, for example, to start and stop services, to monitor the system, to configure system settings, and to manage users and authorizations. Developers can use the SAP HANA Studio to create content, such as modeled views and stored procedures. These development artifacts are stored in the repository, which is part of the SAP HANA database. To separate the different use cases, Eclipse uses what's known as perspectives. When you first start HANA Studio, you will be presented with the welcome screen. Just click the link to the administration console here, or click the workbench arrow here. Now if we just briefly switch to a standard Eclipse installation for Java EE, for example, you can see that this looks fairly similar, and here we have the perspectives related to Java development. Should you ever want to revisit the welcome screen, you can exit it here from the help menu. As mentioned, Eclipse and HANA Studio work with perspectives. To view the list of available perspectives, click the icon here, or from the window menu select Open Perspectives. One thing to notice is the option to reset perspectives. Just click it. This will bring back the perspective in the original state. You can make all kinds of changes to a perspective. You can change the size of the panes, close certain views, and so on. In case you made too many changes and can no longer find where a certain view area was, you can always reset the perspective using the window menu. The left pane here is called the Systems view. This is where the systems are listed that we can connect to. It will be empty at first. You need to add systems yourself. We will look at that in a subsequent video. Above we have the main toolbar and menu. The toolbar will change a bit depending on what perspective and view is active. The menu contains mostly standard Eclipse functions. Here in the middle we have what is called the editor area. In case of administration, these are more viewers than editors, but for development, this is the area where you would be writing your code. Below the editor we have additional views, for example the error log or a property screen. You can always get to them again from the Windows menu Show View. Let's look at the available editors. At the left, as mentioned, we have our Systems view. You can resize it, make it bigger, make it disappear, and make it come back again. The System view is open by default when you open the administration console. And if it's closed, you can open it from the window menu. Window, Show View, Systems. Typically, you will always have this open, as some other editor views can only be accessed by doing a Control-click or right-click on the system. Okay, that's the Systems view. The next one, this icon here, will launch the System Monitor. The System Monitor gives an overview of all connected SAP HANA systems at a glance. From the System Monitor, you can drill down into the details of an individual system in the Administration Editor. As of Support Package Tag 09, we have the web-based HANA Cockpit, which does the same job but maybe a bit better with more functionality. Next, there is Administration. That's this icon here, the two screwdrivers. The Administration Editor is the main tool for administration and monitoring. You can access it from the System Monitor, as we've just seen, or just double-click in the Systems view. Should the system be down or in the process of restarting, we have the Administration Editor in diagnosis mode. It will open automatically when the system cannot be contacted using SQL. To open it manually, use this icon here, the screwdrivers, but with this blue label. Short key Ctrl+Shift+O. For the next editor, we need to expand the system view. Here it is, the Backup Console. This is the main tool to configure and monitor your backups. You can also access it from the context menu, right mouse click, some would say. Another important editor is the Security Console. You can access it the same way. With the Security Editor, you can edit password policy, auditing, your SAML identity provider, and also data volume encryption. And finally, we have the SQL Console. Here you can enter SQL statements to query data or make changes on your HANA system directly. One thing to remark is that pretty much anything that you do in HANA Studio gets converted into SQL. Say, if I click the link here on the version of HANA, a new window will open, but what happens behind the screens is that by clicking the link, a SQL statement was sent to the HANA server, querying the version monitoring view, and the result set sent back and then displayed in a window. So HANA Studio is actually more of a SQL client, similar to Toad, for example, or JDeveloper, which is used a lot in the Oracle world. So anything you can do in HANA Studio, you can also do using SQL. The only exception is to start an SAP HANA system. For this, you need a connection to the SAP Start Server process that runs on the Linux host. And this process does not speak any SQL. But for the rest, it's all SQL. In fact, HANA Studio connects to the HANA Index Server, the SQL engine. You can see that here below, using JDBC, Java Database Connectivity Drivers. Eclipse being originally a Java IDE. Now, what you see is that over time, more editors are being added to HANA Studio. So for example, if you go back 2 years with SPS 05 or earlier, there was no backup editor yet. You had to do it all with SQL. SQL to configure the HANA system and SQL to query the monitoring views. These editors have been added over time to make it easier for you to work with HANA, but behind the screens it is still all SQL. That's good to know, particularly when you have to configure a number of HANA servers. Just write a little SQL and execute it as a script. You can even schedule it. Here we see, for example, a script to create a security role. Now when you open a script, it will say no connection to the database, so when you execute it, nothing will happen. No connection to the database. You first need to select your connection and it will be displayed here in the header. Note that for the SQL console there are some properties defined here. Auto commit is on, isolation level read committed. Now where did this come from? There is a preference setting which you can access from the window menu or from the Eclipse menu on the Mac. And if we expand here SAP HANA, runtime SQL, here we can set the auto commit mode and the isolation level plus some more options. For example, the command separator, well, the colon is the default, but you could use something else as well. Now a lot of these preferences above here, general, Java, plugin development, are all common to the Eclipse environment. So if you have worked with Eclipse before, you will be familiar with these. And for example, any proxy configuration is set here under General Network Connections. This is not specific to HANA, so it does not sit in the HANA section. And you can always search for settings here. So if I type here proxy, it will come up here as well. About the SQL console, you can write SQL syntax elements in either upper or lowercase, it doesn't matter. And you can add any number of spaces and line breaks. Now, to force the system to distinguish between upper and lowercase letters in database object names, such as table names, enter the name between double quotation marks. Now, we'll see that here. To comment out a line, use double hyphen at the start of the line. You can also use name completion, and for this use the key combination Control plus the spacebar. So if I type select and then Control spacebar, I can get here a complete select statement written out for me. This also works for object names. You can enter multiple SQL statements, just separate them by the configured separator character, which is, as mentioned, semicolon by default. If you've entered several statements, you can execute them individually by simply highlighting the statement and execute them. In this case, the separator character is not required. The result of the SQL statement will be displayed in the Result tab. This is for result sets. If you do an update, insert, or delete, or an alter system, there is no result set, so there will also not be a Result tab. Just a message here below. Okay, in the next video we will talk about adding systems to HANA Studio and how to manage that, password security and all. SAP HANA Studio for Administration is documented in the SAP HANA Administration Guide. For development, see the HANA Development Guide. For modeling, the HANA Modeling Guide. And for installation, the HANA Studio Installation Guide. You can access and download SAP HANA documentation free of charge on help.sap.com/HANA. Thank you for watching this SAP HANA Academy video.